I've got one question for you. Are you looking at my dinner or the dogs? Well, here it is another way. Are you looking at my dinner or the dogs? And another way, are you looking at my dinner or the dogs? So it's one question written three different ways. You'll notice this one does not have the apostrophe. This one has the apostrophe between the G and the S. This one has the apostrophe after the S. Now, if you understand how apostrophes work, you should be able to describe for me how that apostrophe placement or lack thereof changes the meaning of this particular question. So we're going to get into today the use of apostrophes, and I'm going to cover 6 rules that are just kind of fundamental to how apostrophes work, including one general rule, which is, I think, kind of the most important of them all to keep in mind as you continue to try to work with apostrophes correctly. So if your teacher is telling you that you're messing up apostrophes, chances are you're probably making this mistake. The most common mistake I've seen as an English teacher is that people use apostrophes incorrectly by adding them to plural versions of words. So people basically place apostrophes where they don't need to be. Did you buy the tickets, for instance? Somebody might put the apostrophe S here, or my friends are planning to meet us there. Again, they might put the apostrophe S there. And you just need to remember, if you're making the plural version of something, you do not have to have apostrophes. So I like to show off some of these signs and advertisements from the real world where people, again, just are messing this rule up left and right. Here's somebody advertising that they can work on doors, locks, worktops, and kitchens, as well as flooring. And again, all of those apostrophes are incorrect. You probably have seen signs like this: fried Oreos with an apostrophe S, or free tacos, and somebody will put an apostrophe S on tacos. Again, it's plural. You just don't need that apostrophe at all. This is one of my favorites because it's apostrophe S on pies, pasties, and sandwiches, but inexplicably not on cakes. So again, you see that lack of consistency here, lots of confusion. And then even here, you can buy CDs without the apostrophe, or you can buy DVDs with the apostrophe. And again, in none of these cases do you need to have that apostrophes. If you're just forming the plural version of something, you really don't need to have an apostrophe. There are very rare instances where that ever becomes something that is necessary. So first off, we're going to go back to elementary school and talk about contractions. Contractions is when we form one word out of 2 words, but typically we have to get rid of some of the letters in order to do that, and that's where the apostrophe goes. So don't instead of do not, you'll notice the apostrophe is taking place of the O. I'll instead of I will, the apostrophe takes the place of the WI. Same thing with let's. It's supposed to be let us. It's kind of an antiquated phrase that doesn't get used anymore, but let's with the apostrophe is like, let us go do this, or let us go do that, right? Let's go, let's hurry up. They've is the contraction of they have, and so HA is missing here, so that's where the apostrophe goes. And then finally, we're instead of we are, the apostrophe takes the place of letter A. There's a bunch of these. You just need to know your contractions, and if you ever get confused as to where the apostrophe is supposed to go, just remember that the apostrophe takes the place of whatever letter you have to get rid of in order to make that happen. All right. Now, I mentioned the general rule. So this is, if you get nothing else out of this quick lecture, remember this rule right here. If you're using apostrophes to show ownership, 9 times out of 10, you're going to write the word and you're going to add apostrophe S to the word, okay? For instance, that's my brother's locker, brother apostrophe S. Where is Mr. Perry's class? Mr. Perry apostrophe S. 9 times out of 10, this is what you're going to have to do. I'll get into the actual rules. So rule number 2 is anytime you have a singular noun, no matter what, if you have a singular noun, always add apostrophe S to the word. So for instance, that's why we have, are you looking at my dinner or the dogs? This question means, are you looking at my dinner that's in front of me, or are you looking at the dinner that belongs to my dog? And I have one dog, right? And so there you go. That would be dogs apostrophe S. The cat's milk spilled on the floor. This means I have one cat. This is Chris's book. You write the word Chris, you add apostrophe S. My dad's car broke down last night, and then all of this week's assignments are on the board. Again, these are all singular nouns, and when you write them, just add the apostrophe S. Sure, there are some rare instances like If you're referencing Jesus, or if you're referencing Odysseus, ancient Greek names, things like that, some names from the Bible, then you can drop the extra S and just do the apostrophe. But again, if you're somebody who struggles with this rule, it's much better just to remember 9 times out of 10 you have to write the word and add apostrophe S. Now, the only time that rule ever changes for sure is this one right here. So this is the one exception. This is the one time out of 10 when you don't write apostrophe S. If the noun is plural and if it ends with an S already, then you just add the apostrophe. So again, this is the one time out of 10 where you don't write the word and add apostrophe S. So let's look at some examples. Are you looking at the dinner or the dogs? So in this case, I'm saying, are you looking at my dinner, the plate that's in front of me? Or let's say I have like 4 or 5 dogs behind me, and they're all sharing a dinner. Let's say they all have a dinner that they're eating as well. I'm saying, are you looking at my dinner, or are you looking at the dinner that belongs to my dogs? And in this case, I have more than one. So you write dogs, it ends in S already, and then you just add the apostrophe. You would never say, are you looking at my dinner or the dogs's, right? Because that just sounds weird. So that's why this rule applies. If you had a group of teachers and they were all parked in the south lot, you would say the teachers' cars were all parked in the south lot. So you can tell that this is plural. Teachers ends in S, just gets the apostrophe. Many cities' governors are up for re-election. So cities is the plural form of city, and it ends in S already, so just an apostrophe. And then finally, the students' books were left in the room, similar to this example up here. Let's keep going. Now, plural ownership. If the noun is plural and does not end in S already, then again, you fall back on that general rule, write the word, add apostrophe S. So what is a plural noun that doesn't end in S already? Well, talk about the men's room, for instance. Men is plural, it's the plural form of man, but it doesn't end in S. So again, you just fall back on that 9 times out of 10, I gotta add apostrophe S. Children, all right, that's also the plural form of child. The children's coats are piled in the corner, so you write children, you add apostrophe S. And then there's some weird words that operate as singular or plural. So deer, you can have 1 deer, or you can have 5 deer. But in either case, you're going to write deer and then apostrophe S. 5 of the deer's tongues showed signs of the disease. So there you are. Again, just to reiterate, 9 times out of 10, you're going to add apostrophe S. So now we're going to get into some special cases. Rule number 5 is when you have 2 people who own the same thing, how do you show ownership in that situation? So rule number 5 is about what's called joint ownership. You've got 2 people. So if you've got Kevin and his wife, and they own 1 bank account that they both own together, the rule is only the last person named gets that apostrophe. So Kevin and his wife's bank account had money stolen from it. That means there's 1 bank account and it belongs to both of them. So only the last person named gets the apostrophe S. And that changes in cases like this. If you have a sentence structure like this, Marlena's and Lindsay's volleyball skills are impressive. What you're doing here is you're naming 2 people, but each individual person has her own skills, right? They have their own set of skills. Marlena might be good at a certain set of things, and Lindsay might be good at a different set of things, right? But it's not like they both own the same set of skills. So this is what's called individual ownership. If you have 2 people owning their own version of the noun that follows, then they each get a possessive apostrophe. So this just means if you have an apostrophe S on both, that means each individual person has their own, his or her own version of what it is we're getting into here, okay? And that's basically it as far as the general rules go. There's a few other just common mistakes to take note of. There are these things called indefinite pronouns. So indefinite pronouns are words like nobody or someone, one, nobody, everybody, anyone. When you're referring to people without using their names, you're using what are called indefinite pronouns. So they always get apostrophe S. Again, just fall back on your 9 times out of 10 rule. Write the word, add apostrophe S. So nobody's shirt is as nice as Scott's, or someone's jacket was left on the floor yesterday. Again, they just get that apostrophe S. And another common mistake to keep in mind and to try to avoid are what are called personal possessive pronouns. So saying yours, his, hers, theirs, its, ours, or whose. These do not take apostrophes. So you wouldn't say, you would say, isn't that ours? And you just write the word our and then add the S. You don't do apostrophe S. That textbook is yours. Again, doesn't need the apostrophe. You wouldn't write it this way. And its pages are damaged. Remember, IT apostrophe S always means it is. So if you're talking about a book and you say its pages are damaged, you would write it this way to show the possession. You would not use IT apostrophe S. And with that, folks, we've come to the end of our little slideshow, our little lecture on apostrophes. And again, just want to reiterate, 9 times out of 10, if you have to use apostrophes to show ownership, you write the word, you add apostrophe S. The 1 time out of 10, the only time that ever changes, is if you have a plural noun that ends in S already, in which case you're just going to add the apostrophe. All right, hopefully that helps, and I will see you in class.